The rain was relentless that evening, hammering down on the city, streets as if the sky itself wanted to drown the world in sorrow. Jason Matthews, a single dad with deep lines of worry etched onto his face, walked briskly through the puddles, clutching the worn grocery bag tighter against his chest. His daughter Lily tugged at his sleeve, shivering in her oversized jacket. "Dad, are we going to be late for dinner?" she asked, her voice trembling as much from cold as hunger. Jason sighed, glancing down at her small face, framed by strands of damp hair sticking to her cheeks. "Almost there, princess. Just a little longer." But he wasn't. Talking about reaching the restaurant, they had nowhere to go except the small apartment waiting for them, with barely enough food to last the week. As they passed a narrow alley, Jason's eyes caught a figure slumped against the brick wall, half hidden under a tattered blanket. An old man, hair white and matted, face streaked with grime, and hands trembling as he clutched a nearly empty paper cup. Most people would have walked on, avoiding eye contact, pretending not to notice. But Jason couldn't. He remembered his own father, long gone, sitting silently in the same state in a distant park. Compassion overrode caution. He crouched down, offering the man the sandwich he had just bought for Lily. "Here, eat this. You look like you need it more than we do." The man's eyes flickered open, clouded with fatigue and disbelief, as he stared at the food as if it were a miracle. "Thank you," he whispered, voice brittle, barely audible over the pounding rain. Lily, curious despite the cold, peered at the man. "Dad, why is he sitting there alone?" she asked softly. Jason hesitated, then knelt beside her. "Sometimes people fall on hard times, Lily. They don't have a home or family to take care of them. That's why we help, even if it's just a little." The man took the sandwich with a trembling hand, devouring it as though he hadn't eaten in days. Jason stayed for a moment, watching, unsure whether he had done enough. The man's eyes met his, a spark of recognition, or was it gratitude, glimmering in the depths. Jason shook his head, dismissing the thought. He had responsibilities, a daughter to feed, and yet something about the man's stare lingered uncomfortably in his mind. That night in their tiny apartment, Lily slept with her head resting against Jason's shoulder, dreaming of warmth and laughter she barely knew. Jason sat on the edge of their worn-out couch, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the image of the homeless man. He wondered what life had done to bring someone to that state. Little did he know, the man he had fed was far from ordinary. Hidden behind layers of poverty and disguise was Henry Whitmore, a billionaire who had vanished from public life after a devastating scandal had threatened to destroy his empire. He had wandered the streets anonymously for months, testing humanity, seeking the truth about compassion in a world he had grown cynical of. And tonight, he had found it. The next morning, Jason returned to his routine, working double shifts at the diner to make ends meet. He never imagined that a simple act of kindness could ripple into something unimaginably larger. But Henry Whitmore had not forgotten. He had felt something in Jason's eyes, something rare in the world of greed and indifference. And he had decided that this man, this struggling father, deserved a chance at a life he could scarcely imagine. The billionaire began observing Jason from afar, learning everything about him, the tireless hours, the endless sacrifice, the small acts of love that kept Lily fed and clothed. And as Henry watched, a plan began to form, one that would shatter Jason's understanding of reality. A week later, Jason was staggering home from his third shift, exhausted when a sleek black car pulled up beside him. The window rolled down, revealing a man in a perfectly tailored suit, sharp eyes that seemed to pierce straight through him. "Mr. Matthews?" the man asked. Jason nodded, wary. "I'm Henry Whitmore," the man said simply, his voice calm yet commanding. "You probably don't know me, but I know you, and I want to meet with you tonight." Jason blinked, disbelief flashing across his face. What is this about?" Henry smiled faintly. "You saved me, and now it's my turn." Before Jason could protest, the car door opened. "Get in," Henry said. "All will be explained." Inside the car, the world seemed to shift. The rain, the streets, the misery Jason had always known, suddenly felt distant. The car glided smoothly through the city, finally stopping in front of a sprawling mansion, lights twinkling like a fortress of wealth. Jason stepped out, stunned, heart pounding in his chest. This is yours?" he asked, voice shaking. Henry nodded. "It was mine, yes. But for years I wanted to know if goodness existed without expectation. And tonight I'm offering you a choice. A chance to change your life and Lily's. Jason felt a wave of disbelief. I can't accept this. I'm just a guy trying to survive, he stammered. Henry placed a firm hand on his shoulder. Exactly. That's why you're the one. Integrity, compassion, love for your child. These are worth more than all the money in the world. You saved a life without knowing it. Now let me save yours. Tears stung Jason's eyes as he glanced back, imagining the struggles he had endured, the unpaid bills, the sleepless nights, the constant fear of failing Lily. And yet, here was an opportunity no one could have imagined, born from a single act of kindness. Over the next few days, Henry integrated Jason into his world, quietly teaching him the ropes of wealth, business and philanthropy. It was dizzying, overwhelming, and frightening. But Jason refused to let fear dictate his life any longer. Lily, wide-eyed and thrilled, explored rooms filled with treasures she had only seen in magazines, while her father learned that the world could be both cruel and breathtakingly beautiful. And yet amidst the luxury, the shadow of suspense lingered.
Henry had one final revelation.
A secret he had kept even from the public eye. Enemies who had destroyed him were still watching, waiting for a misstep. Jason, once an ordinary man, now had to navigate a world of deceit and danger, learning that kindness could make him a target as much as a hero. Then, one evening, as Jason walked the halls of the mansion, he stumbled upon a letter slipped under his door. Hands shaking, he opened it to find a warning. Someone knew about the encounter, and their intentions were far from benign. Panic surged through him, yet he couldn't go back to ignorance. He realized that life had shifted irreversibly. Every choice mattered now. Every act carried weight beyond imagination. He turned to Henry, finding the billionaire quietly observing him, calm and unyielding. "Are you ready for this, Jason?" Henry asked. Jason swallowed hard. I have to be," he replied. "For Lily, for all of us." And in that moment, the bond forged in the rain, over a simple sandwich and a fleeting glance, became unbreakable, a connection that would defy betrayal, danger, and the cruel twists of fate that awaited them. The story spiraled into a suspenseful climax, where Jason's integrity would be tested by cunning adversaries, and the quiet man he had once helped, the one who had appeared weak and destitute, revealed the full magnitude of his power. Enemies struck with a vengeance, but Jason, armed with the lessons of empathy and courage he had learned long before money, entered the picture, turned the tables in ways nobody could predict. The mansion, the wealth, the fame, it all became a backdrop to the more profound battle, the fight to protect love, family, and the humanity that made them truly unstoppable. In the end, the rain that had once soaked Jason and Lily seemed almost symbolic, a cleansing of the old harsh world. They had survived fear, betrayal, and uncertainty, emerging not just richer in wealth, but richer in trust, loyalty, and understanding of what truly mattered. Henry, finally revealing himself to the world, credited Jason's selflessness as the reason his empire was restored and stronger than ever. And Jason, once a struggling single father, now walked not just in a mansion, but in a life transformed by the extraordinary truth that sometimes the simplest act of kindness could change everything, forever. The last line lingered like a shock. A single sandwich, given in the pouring rain, had altered the fate of 3 lives, proving that courage and compassion could defy even the darkest twists of destiny. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of revelations, danger, and unexpected alliances. Jason found himself thrust into a world he had never imagined. A world of boardrooms, high-stakes decisions, and whispers of schemes that could topple entire empires. Yet despite the dizzying pace, he never forgot the moment that had changed everything. The rainy alley, the worn sandwich, the old man who had seemed like nothing but a shadow of despair. That shadow, as he now knew, had been Henry Whitmore, a man whose name could crush reputations and whose fortune could shape nations. And Henry had chosen him. But power always attracts envy, and soon Jason began to notice subtle threats. Anonymous letters, strange phone calls, people shadowing his movements. At first he thought it paranoia, but the hints became undeniable. Someone was watching, waiting for him to slip, to falter. The very enemies who had once ruined Henry now sought revenge, and Jason's sudden ascent made him a target. The realization hit him like a punch to the chest. His act of kindness had not only saved a billionaire but also placed him and Lily squarely in the crosshairs of ruthless adversaries. One night, as Jason was reviewing financial reports with Henry in the study, the power cut abruptly, plunging the mansion into darkness. Silence pressed down, heavy and suffocating, until a voice slithered through the shadows. "Mr. Matthews, you thought it would be easy?" A figure stepped into the faint glow of moonlight, a gun glinting coldly. Jason froze, heart thundering. Lily's small voice trembled from behind the door. "Dad." Henry's calm presence grounded him.
Jason, stay close, he whispered.
In that moment, Jason realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. What followed was a blur of strategy, deception, and raw survival. Jason and Henry worked in tandem, anticipating every move of the intruders, using intelligence and wit rather than brute force. Lily, hidden safely, listened to whispers of a plan that would turn the tables. When the attackers finally made their move, expecting to take everything, they found themselves ensnared by their own overconfidence. Jason had learned quickly that kindness could coexist with cunning, that empathy did not preclude vigilance. One by one, the adversaries were captured, their plots exposed, their influence dismantled. The final confrontation was the most shocking. Henry, once frail and weary, revealed a secret safe that contained documents exposing global corruption networks. The world had assumed he was powerless, but he had spent months preparing, testing, observing. Jason, once a humble diner worker, stood beside him not just as an ally, but as a symbol of the unexpected force of human decency. Together they dismantled the schemes of men who had underestimated the simple virtue of compassion. And in doing so, they reshaped not only their destinies, but the very definition of justice. After the danger had passed, silence fell over the mansion like a long-awaited calm. Jason and Lily walked through the grand halls, hands entwined, hearts lighter than they had been in years. Henry smiled, the weight of the past finally lifted. "You saved me, Jason. But more than that, you reminded me that the world isn't completely lost," he said. Jason shook his head, awestruck. "I just gave you a sandwich, sir." "I never imagined." Henry's eyes glimmered. "A sandwich, yes, but it revealed a truth that money, fame, and power often hide, that even the smallest act of humanity can ripple outward and change everything." And for the first time in his life, Jason felt a freedom beyond wealth, beyond fear, freedom born of courage, love, and unshakable integrity. Lily laughed, chasing sunlight streaming through the massive windows. And Jason knew that no matter what storms might come, they had survived the greatest test of all, proving that ordinary people could achieve extraordinary things through kindness, courage, and faith in the goodness of others. As the city slept under a blanket of stars, Henry's empire thrived once more. Jason's life transformed, and the world unknowingly shifted because a single father had chosen compassion over convenience, and a homeless man had chosen to repay it in a way no one could have imagined. The rain-soaked night that had seemed so ordinary now stood as the pivotal moment where three lives collided, irrevocably changed by a single act of humanity. And in that quiet, powerful truth lay the shocking, undeniable lesson. Sometimes, saving someone else's life, even unknowingly, can save your own in ways the heart cannot foresee.